Bijia Cuneo was a spitfire who knew her own mind and wasn't afraid to get the job done. She disliked the fella her parents had intended her to marry in Italy. The night before her wedding day, she escaped out her second-story window and boarded a ship for America. She then got on the wagon train headed for Jackson, California, where her sister lived. She later married Giuseppe Cuneo, who was a miner in Volcano, California. Together, they began to build their future as farmers. They began by claiming land that was at that time deeded by Ulysses S. Grant and Chester Arthur. But Bijia was an industrious woman and became the area's first loan shark. That's right. She loaned people money with interest, and when the loan came due, if they couldn't pay up, well, their land was taken as payment. At one time, she and her husband had acquired 5,000 acres. The land through time has been parceled off to their heirs and their children's children. But the Cuneo Ranch is still alive and well today in Jackson. In fact, we are taking a look at about 650 acres of this property and how they've been working with the Natural Resource Conservation Service since the 1950s.
Farmers are stewards of the land and practice conservation out of necessity to survive and thrive. One of my father's projects was to build this dam. It was to increase the irrigation to the cattle, goats, sheep, and hogs, and to bring water to different parts of the property. He worked on this project with the Soil Conservation Service back in the 1950s. As I inherited the land, I too have worked with the NRCS starting in about the 1970s. The NRCS has been instrumental in our property today, helping us build fences, brushing out the land. We were able to drill an ag well, improving our ag irrigation practices, and planting cover crops. And all this made our property more usable.
Farmers never sit still. Their work ethic is ingrained in their DNA.
Come on. Come on, guys. Watch out, guys.
Another current contract with the NRCS has allowed the ranch to create small pens for goats.
What they've allowed us to do is go in and make smaller pens so that we could do more rotation. But sometimes, like when I kid, I'm able to use the pastures as well for different age groups. So like if I have one set of kids born in February, one set of kids born in March, I'm able to take and keep age-appropriate kids so it's easier for me to feed.
Up on this hill, we did some brush control, and when we finished, we seeded it. We wanted to reclaim the property so we could use it for grazing. We were able to put in some fencing down below so that we can start to control the noxious weeds such as star thistle, thistle, and fiddleneck. Now that we have the fencing, the goats will manage to take care of the noxious weeds, and within time, it will all disappear.
The land is still in good hands, and I'm sure Bijia is proud. Here's another ranch that also has had a long and helpful relationship with the NRCS. We're at Susan and Dan Port's 180-acre ranch in Ione, California. This beautiful land has quite a history. It's been a part of Susan's family since 1867. Susan's father, George Winter, was originally a dairy farmer, and George knew from having lived through the Depression and the Dust Bowl of the 1930s that farmers and ranchers have to take care of their resources. He later served on the board of the Conservation District.
I loved growing up on this farm and loved my childhood here. But as I became a young adult, I was anxious to leave, but the farm drew me back.
Susan and I met in college. Like a lot of farm kids, I think she wanted to get off the farm as soon as she could. But after we'd done a few things, we decided that this might be a pretty good place to live after all, and she was really happy to come back here.
We raised our family here, and hopefully my kids will be able to carry it on and continue to nurture our farm.
We took over Susan's dad's cow-calf operation. Now we sell grass-fed beef, and we sell all the cattle that we can raise here on the farm down at farmers markets in Sacramento and to people online. This crop behind me is Sudan grass, and that's what we grow for our summer forage for our cattle, and we also make hay out of it. And what we used to do is pump water out of the creek, but it wasn't a very efficient way of irrigating the crop. So now, with this new pipeline that we have that NRCS helped us put in, instead of running the water in a ditch, we can run it in the pipeline and we can put it under pressure and we can run sprinklers, and it's just a much more efficient way to get the irrigation done, and it wastes a lot less water. One of the things we realized when we got into the cattle business was that we had a problem with pasture management. We wanted to keep the cattle down on the cropland instead of up in the upland areas where our water was. So what we needed to do was be able to divide our pasture land up into more pastures, and that required building a lot of new fence, because the more pastures you have that you can put your cattle into and rotate them through, the better you can manage the pasture. We really didn't have the resources to do that on our own, and I knew about the NRCS programs that would help with that kind of work, conservation work. And so we made an application for a fencing project and the livestock water troughs from NRCS. Now we have some nice new fences. We have our troughs in, and it helps us keep the pastures cleaner, helps the water quality because we can manage the cattle, keep them out of the watersheds. So I think it's a win-win.
For more information on these programs and others available, contact the Amador Resource Conservation District, the ARCD, at area code 209-223-6543, or visit their website, amadorrcd.org.